Hey there, clarity seekers. Pascal here. Are you a podcaster, content creator, entrepreneur, or just someone who loves sharing your voice with the world? Well, I've got something exciting to share with you. I know how important it is to have high quality audio and video for your podcasts, webinars, and even your social media content. That's why I use Riverside.fm, the best tool for recording and editing professional grade podcasts and videos right from the comfort of your own home or office. With Riverside.fm, you get crystal clear audio and video quality, easy editing tools, and the ability to pull amazing video clips for your social media. Plus, it's all in one place, which means no more juggling multiple apps or struggling with complicated setups. It's streamlined, simple, and perfect for the busy entrepreneur like us. And here's the best part. As a listener of Women Finding Clarity podcast, you can head over to riverside.fm using the link in show notes. Trust me, this is a game changer if you're looking to elevate your content and reach a wider audience. Visit Riverside using the link in show notes and start creating content that truly shines. Remember, the universe is abundant and success is your birthright. Let's align, elevate, and thrive together, one recording, one conversation at a time. Hello, and welcome to Women Finding Clarity. I'm your host, Pascal Cook Fernandez, and I hope you are having the very best week. Here at Women Finding Clarity, we talk a lot about the importance of mindfulness and about how it can affect and improve all areas of your life. Tonight, I want to focus on the importance of mindful interaction. Think about all the people you interact with in your day, your partner, your children, maybe your extended family, your boss or coworkers, clients, neighbors, the package delivery person, the mail carrier, the grocery store checker. The list of possibilities is endless. Now, think about the energy that is exchanged between you and each of those people. It could literally be anywhere from one energetic exchange to thousands in a single day, depending on who you are. It's very likely that it's easy to remember a really bad energetic exchange that you had with someone or a really good energetic exchange. But what about all those in between? How did you leave the other person feeling? How did you leave feeling? How could your life change if you became more mindful of how you left someone feeling? What if you became more mindful and more intentional about leaving everyone you come in contact with feeling better than they were feeling that day? Let me preface this by reminding you that each person's happiness is their own responsibility. And what if being more mindful about the energy you're bringing to conversations and interactions could actually increase your life's happiness and satisfaction? How might that change how you think about and how you choose to show up? Research by UCLA found that 93% of communication effectiveness is determined by nonverbal cues, with body language and tone of voice accounting for more than words alone. Research from Yale Center of Emotional Intelligence shows that emotional intelligence is responsible for 58% of success in interpersonal interactions. It's not about reading someone else's mind or trying to predict how they might react, but instead, it's about intentionally being mindful of your body language, your tone of voice, and the emotions that you're bringing into energetic exchanges with other people. It takes practice, but I promise you that the more mindful you are in your daily interactions, the more high vibe your days will become. And just think of the ripple effect of your high vibe energy in all areas of your life and everyone else's. I recently sat down for a chat with Robyn Smith, an award winning speaker and a leading trauma and relationship coach for women. Founder of the Rock Your Relationship movement and inspired by her own thriving 22-year relationship with her husband, Robyn is helping thousands of women transform from frustrated to fulfilled by creating deeper, loving, and conscious connection for greater life satisfaction and happiness. Robyn helps her clients unwind layers of complex trauma and dysfunctional patterns that have interfered with their ability to enjoy ease and harmony in their relationships with others and themselves so they can feel connected, happy, and whole. So without further ado, please help me welcome Robyn Smith. Robyn, welcome to Women Finding Clarity.
Thank you so much. Happy to be here.
I'm so glad we can finally make this work. I feel like I've kind of had my eye on you for a long time and like, yep, she's going to be a guest at some point. So finally the stars have aligned. So happy to have you here.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's been fun being in different circles together. And yeah, it's nice to be able to sit down together and have a conversation.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like the work that you do is so very important, working with women and couples to have healthy love, healthy relationship, healthy communication. And I feel like that really kind of goes out and affects everything in the universe.
I totally agree. In fact, I talk about it similarly where I see like your relationship at home, whether it's only with yourself or with your beloved or child, are like the foundation. Your relationships are the foundation for, a healthy life because it's like our bedrock. It's like our home base, right? And if we're not happy at home, if we're not getting our needs met for all the things that humans need, not just food and shelter, but emotional needs, needs for certain types of nurturing and care, then we're feeling, kind of disconnected from ourselves. We're not feeling as functional in the world. It really can bleed out into how effective women are at work and ability to think clearly or ability to follow through. There's so much that can be affected. Your other relationships, your health, um, your ability to just focus your mind. So yeah, mental and physical health and financial health are definitely affected, and I've seen it in my clients by how functional you are at home and how happy you are at home.
Yeah. So I resonate so deeply with this because my husband and we went through a really hard time. I mean, now it's been, I don't know, 6 years ago or something, 7 years ago. And we did make it out and are stronger than ever, right? Yay, clapping to that. But it was hard. And when you talk about how it affects everything in your life, it does. Because what I found is that when we really started having problems, my universe shrunk way down and it was all I could focus on. It was all I could think about.
Yeah. I have had similar experiences in my breakup before the marriage I'm in now. And, just where like I wasn't sleeping, I wasn't eating well. That's all I wanted to talk about. I lost friends over it because I was just always complaining or I shut down and pulled away from people. So yeah, I think all of that. Yeah. I'm sorry that happened for you.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
same, like, I'm sorry that happened to you. And I like to ask podcast guests, what is your PhD in life that you can turn around and look and say, man, I went through that and it brought me here. And how
Yeah.
can I use all of those life lessons and experiences to move forward and to help other people? So, what does that look like for you?
I love that question. And that is exactly what, why I'm here doing what I do now, because my breakup with my fiance was heart-wrenching. It left me devastated and confused and alone. And I was like 30 years old, feeling like my life was over and I was never going to pull it together again. And little did I know, life goes on after a hard breakup. Um, yeah, I was just really lost and felt broken, and it's because of all the work I put in to heal myself and to really get under the surface of like, why did that happen? How can I do better next time? Really looking at my mind. I went deep into meditation practices and many retreats and trainings, and I was already teaching yoga, but that deeper work of meditation was really powerful for me. And then I went deep into studies of communication and healthy communication practices. And then I became a relationship coach and really started to unpack so many dysfunctional habits that I was living with, and, that were certainly contributing to the problems I had in my relationship. And then I became a trauma coach and really learned a lot about developmental and complex trauma and got certified as a master coach in that because, it's more than communication. It's really, there's so many things going on that can drive how we're behaving and feeling and what we're believing in our relationships that are beyond what comes out of our mouths. So yeah. So so that was my journey to meet my husband and to still do work. It's not like we met and everything was hunky dory, but we we were doing great and we had our issues. And then I started to do some of that deeper work, and things just kept getting better to where we're 22 years into our relationship. We've moved to Costa Rica together, started a new life, which has been incredibly challenging, building a home here. And we're just better than ever. So not that we don't have our bumps, but we have the tools and we have the dedication and all this that has gone into, being where we are today. It's not just luck. So, yeah.
It's not just luck. And I love that you said we still have our bumps because that's the reality of life. Nothing is perfect. And we are still going to have those bumps. But there's a big difference between a bump and a sinkhole.
Ah, yeah. Well said. Yeah. Yeah. One of those bumps in the road. Yeah. And it's so true because sometimes people, and I think maybe women more, might be very idealistic and think, I'm going to meet Prince Charming and he's going to sweep me off my feet and everything is going to be perfect and we're never going to argue and we're going to get along 100% of the time. It's like, it's a beautiful dream, but it's not usually a reality. And, we're all complex beings. So it's just good to be able to hold the complexity of like, we don't always agree and we don't always want the same thing. And we have friction sometimes and, but we're bigger than that. And we know how to get through that. And we also know how to be okay with it too. Be okay with not agreeing or not seeing things the same way. And that's not easy, but it's being an adult, like really facing reality that, yeah, we're not all the same, we're not all perfect. So,
Yeah. And in that, we're not all the same and we're not all perfect and we are going to see things differently. What do you feel like is maybe one of the biggest tools that you talk about in terms of seeing someone else's perspective or, trying to get them to see your perspective because that can be difficult?
yes. Okay, here it is. The thing that comes to mind is an open, it's like being open-minded, right? It's like I'm in Costa Rica. It's a different culture. There's people from all over the world here that I came from a pretty homogenous, like white, liberal place. And now it's just like all over the map. And so that that traveler's mind that you might have, if you're a traveler listening, like when you go and you're like, oh, curious, and like, what do you think? What's your perspective? How do you live? That's interesting. Like we can do that with our partner too. We can be open to their perspective, curious, be in a space of wonder. And also a huge one around that is taking out that need to be right.
Yeah.
Note
Yeah.
to self, because we're all stuck in that at times or a lot of the time. And I know I have been, and that's where we get into conflict. If you have this, dedication to commitment to being right, then you're probably not going to have much harmony because you can't that's not an open and receptive position to be in. It's very kind of closed off. So the more you can release your need to be right and need to know the answers and have the sort of right view or whatever it is and be open and receptive, you're much more likely to get along and find a way through. Yeah.
Do you feel like in your practice and with your couples coming in, what are you seeing, maybe not as trends? I don't want to say trends, but what are some constants that you see? What are the biggest struggles that you're finding that couples are having?
Yeah, thanks for that question. Well, this one that we're talking about now, for sure. And then there's like different styles, and I would say based on, if anyone knows attachment theory and attachment styles, this is now rooted in your earliest years of life, like first 6 months to 2 years of how your mother especially bonded with you, and whether she did that well, consciously or absent-mindedly, or was neglectful or abusive or whatever. So that's going to affect a lot how we show up now in our adult relationships at home and at work. And so when people have different attachment styles, there's a common pairing that happens. As an example, the anxious attachment and the avoidant. So an anxiously attached person is that person who's like, you already know, is like
Totally like, oh my God, this is my husband and I.
yeah, it's
Carry
super
on. Sorry.
common. So anxious person's like, why don't you text me? Where are you? I need to hear from you. Are you going to leave me again? Just that fear of like, they're needing consistency. They don't feel secure in the relationship. They aren't able as much to relax. And that's probably because of that early bonding time that there's like this anxiety. And then the avoidant person probably had a worse bonding experience, honestly, but their way of coping was to shut down. And so they still do that. When you want something from them, they're more likely to pull away because they don't want to be needed, and they need to be like this, independent sphere of, like, I got this, I don't need anybody type of thing. And they cope by pulling away and withdrawing or pushing you away. And then that's exactly the most painful thing for the anxious person. So then both people need to learn how to meet somewhere in the middle, right? The anxious person needs to find a sense of inner security more, and kind of inner peace and understanding, and not taking everything so personally. And so like dramatically, like what's the word? Catastrophically. And then the avoidant person needs to learn to open up, and like, they may have such intense emotions or reactions that they can't even deal with. So the shutdown is the coping. But as they can grow their capacity to be with variety of emotions and without it being so overwhelming, and they can be more present in the relationship.
Yeah.
That was
Wow.
a lot of work.
That when you were describing that, I'm like, holy moly. Yeah. And those were our biggest rubs. Well, those were some of our biggest problems, where I would be an over communicator and well, tell me how you're feeling. What are you thinking right now? When are you going to be home? What time did you leave? Da, 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 right? All the things. And he used to call it the little box. No, I just shove things down in the little box and put the lid on it until the little box overflows, and now there's more communication. And so when we went through our stuff back, our big stuff, back in the day, that was a huge part of it, was learning how to communicate in a way that really supported the other person's needs.
Yeah. Yes. Beautiful. Yeah. And that coming together to really get your differences and to start understanding, okay, you operate differently. Like you said, you have different needs. How can I understand that without getting offended by that or taking it also personally? Or yeah, that's just huge. And that communication piece of like, then how to address that. So it's like an inner process of coming to terms internally and finding your own wholeness without, being so affected by the other person's stuff over there. And then also how to interact with it on a communication level. Yeah.
Yeah, so important. And I think what you do again is so important for every couple because we don't know what we don't know. And sometimes you're too far down the path of this isn't working to feel like there's even any way back. And so maybe do you feel like it's important while things are great to come and work with someone like you? Or do your clients really like, uh-oh, we're really not working right now? And that's when you find that it's most important. Because just like like bringing a baby home from the hospital, there's no manual. Nobody tells you how to be a successful couple.
Yeah, there's more than there has been, but I don't know if I've ever had a couple come in and say, we're doing great. Can you, we want to pay you to help us. So that doesn't usually happen. And I do think it could be useful. Like I think my husband and I could benefit too, because we do really well 95% of the time. And then those little kinks in the armor, so to speak, or no, that's not the right expression, but you know what I mean? Those issues that do resurface that we haven't gotten enough support with, that could still be useful to look at. So that said, most people come to me when they're really struggling and they're wondering if they can make it usually, or they're wondering how to get through this hard time that they're in. Sometimes they know it's a rough patch they're in, like, some kind of trauma happened or some kind of drama happened, and they're kind of overcoming that, or, finding themselves distancing or arguing a lot or whatever the symptoms might be. So yeah, that's usually who comes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that it totally makes sense. I feel like you almost could have we're engaged, now what? kind of a thing. So as we're talking about communication and really, how that supports relationship, do you have any tips or tricks that you can offer? Like, oh, I always tell my clients these things.
Right. Love it. So we talked about one, which is a really important one, like letting go of that need to be right. And so let's just put that in the mix here, and that we can put into the category of humility. So when we're humble, it's the same thing as knowing we're not right necessarily. We may have a strong opinion, but it doesn't mean we're right. So that's really helpful to bring into any relationship, again, whether it's at home or at work. And another one that I worked with many people on, and it seems super basic. It is basic. It's foundational. Is eye contact. And we have that pretty good right now, even though the camera's up here and your eyes are down here. We do our best on Zoom here, but many people are talking. When you're in a room with somebody, it's actually easier in a way to not look at them because there's so many distractions. You've got your phone. Yeah, I'm listening. Yeah, got you. We're scrolling and trying to have a conversation at the same time, or watching a television, or talking to the dog, or whatever else could be happening. And so that may be all well and good for sort of a superficial conversation, like don't forget the broccoli, or like I'll be home at 6, but not so great when you really want to be heard and like really have your heart held. And so people, I think, forget about the value of that, especially in this fast pace, like short snippets of information culture, and the Instagram and Snapchat, whatever else is out there. Things are going by quickly and our attention span is shorter. So that there's such a value into just being with, making eye contact, what you and I are doing now, this nodding, it's like, I'm with you, I'm following you. And it's such a gift to the receiver who's speaking, to get okay, you're with me. Like there's a relaxation that happens when I know you're with me. You're following the head tilt, the nodding, the reactions, that happen. It's soothing and it's connecting. And we
Yeah.
miss out on that with text and email and even phone and then the things we do even in the same room. So just bringing the value of that back in to really sit and be with somebody in an important conversation.
Yeah. And how do you recommend, like, if you're a couple and you're not used to that, right? How do you recommend someone start down
Mhm.
that road of healthier, mindful time together?
Yeah, I love your question. Well, one thing I do, because my husband and I both are great multitaskers. Anyone else a great multitasker? I really value getting a lot done. Um, is I will just ask for him to come and be in the same room. Like sometimes he'll like be walking away, finishing a sentence type of thing, or he's asking a question, say, I would like to talk to you, but I don't want to yell to you. So I will wait until we're in the same room and I have some eye contact. So I just sort of have a boundary about having a conversation in two different rooms or while he's washing the dishes or whatever it might be. So there's that, just kind of insisting on or requesting, this eye contact and presence. Or it could also be if you're the one wanting to initiate the eye contact and presence, you can simply talk about it and like, hey, I just learned this thing and I just realized that I don't give that to you enough. And I'm going to make a point to like sit down with you and really help you see that I'm here and I want to hear what you have to say. Um, so it could be that. So maybe you initiate really consciously, or somebody's starting to talk, but they're walking away and you go, wait a minute, I want to hear what you're saying. But, and you can ask them as the listener instead of the speaker to like, hey, come here and like, look me in the eye. Let's talk about this.
Yeah.
So
I
that's,
love that you brought up this being the speaker and the listener, because I talk with my clients about the 7 chakras of feminine. And so the throat chakra, we always think, let yourself be heard or, use your voice, all the things. But part of the throat chakra is also about being a listener. So it's important to maybe hear what's being said and also read between the lines and hear what's not being said. And I love that you brought up asking for what you need, not necessarily expecting that someone is a mind reader or just assuming they should know.
yeah, very good. Yeah, great point. Absolutely. Yeah.
I'm just reiterating your great point.
Thank you. I like how you said it. Yeah. I have a year-long program for women called Rock Your Relationship. And in that, we spend a whole month on needs and how to express your needs and understand what your needs are. So it is really important. And especially a lot of women tend to like please and like put their needs last and put everyone else's first and that whole thing, which then leads to resentment and feeling forgotten. So this, yeah, being for some women, it's like courageous enough to ask for what you need, and there's some work to do to get to that place. But yeah, you can start with something simple like, hey, can we just sit down together and talk instead of walking around while talking?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It seems so simple and it seems so basic, but sometimes when you've let yourselves get so far down the path of unhealthiness or unhappiness, even simply asking for that can be so difficult.
Yeah.
I'm speaking from experience.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Appreciate your openness here. Yeah. And I know you're not alone in that. Yep. It's true. And everything you said, that people get into habits of distancing, disconnecting, feeling so like you don't get me, you don't know me, you don't like me, all those things that can happen, and getting more and more distant and then not knowing how to get back. So this expressing yourself, expressing what you want, asking for that, is huge. And then having the courage to, to ask for it and know that you're worth it. Okay. And I can say that, and you can say, yeah, but a lot of women don't feel worth it. That's an issue I work on with people a lot.
Yeah.
Not feeling worthy, not deserving, whatever it might be around this healthy love. So there is often some deeper work to do there that, beyond communication, but it's, but yeah, let's bookmark that and come
Yeah.
back to a communication tip, that aligns with what we're talking about. So we're talking about kind of expressing your needs, talking about the speaker and the listener. So this is right in there, and it's getting consent. So say you want to have an important conversation, like we got to talk about the bills or our kids' school or whatever it is. And your husband comes home and he's had a long day at work, kind of classic situation. Maybe you work from home and you're like, hey, honey, we got to talk. And you start asking, what do you want to do about this? How about that? And he's like, like, I need some space. And like, I can't talk, or he yells at you because like, you're like in his face. So this is a boundary issue where you're crossing his boundary because you haven't asked him, is this a good time to talk? Like, I want to have this conversation. When can we have it? And when you get that, so that's a sign of respect that you're honoring. He has some needs, and one of them might be to choose when he has the conversation instead of being bombarded with it. And another, might be to have it in a time that he's actually available for it, physically, not exhausted, emotionally, not overwhelmed with something else that just happened. You don't know what he's walking in with, so when we ask for like, when's a good time, physically, emotionally, mentally, energetically, for us to have this conversation, then when we have it, if we can both agree, yeah, like I want to have it too, and maybe it should be a half hour, and we can like chunk out that time and put it on our calendar or whatever, then you're more likely to come into it, ready, available emotionally and physically and mentally, and able to have it without whatever else might have just happened. So it can really support a healthy conversation beyond, all the other tools I could give you that we don't have time for today. But these things are the consent and the eye contact, and when asking for what you want around that are like context creators, like setting the scene so that you can have, this type of listening and responsiveness that you want.
I love that you title it consent, right? And that your description of it was beautiful, because immediately in my mind, through our whole conversation, I'm picturing my husband and I. And for us, wouldn't have known it was called consent. I wouldn't have thought about it. But one of our big sticking points, and it seems so trivial now, but that's why you're the expert, is that at the end of the day, he's done. And like his mind just wants to shut down. Whereas me, I was a stay-at-home mom. That's when I could talk, because now the kids are in bed. So now I've got all this spaciousness and availability, and he's shut down and he's like, I can't do this right now. Like,
Yeah.
lots of sighs, lots of
Mm.
exasperation. And it definitely, hurt feelings, and you don't
Mm.
even care. And why don't you want to talk about this? And
Yeah.
when really it was miscommunication.
Timing.
Timing. Yeah. Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that you have a year-long program for women.
Mhm.
And how else do you work with women, couples? What does that look like?
Yeah. So the program is an online group for women who want to really look at these different dynamics that are getting in the way of them having healthy relationships, whether they're in one or in between. And we just go through all these categories of, communication, boundaries, needs, emotions, all this stuff that can get in the way. So that's that, and it's powerful and life-changing. And then the other thing is the personal coaching that I do, the one-on-one or the me with a couple coaching. that I do to really support that deeper dive. And the private coaching is part of the group as well as is group coaching. So that's all pretty inclusive. But for a couple, I don't have a group for couples. So that work is really, really powerful for people to have a witness, to have somebody who can hold both of you in an unbiased way. It's super rich and transformational. So yeah, so that's the private work that I do, and all my work's on Zoom right now.
Amazing. Everything that you do, I just feel like it's so deep. It's so pure. It's so valuable. And I really think every couple needs to have, in some capacity, that unbiased third party who can hold a container and who can really witness both of you and teach you how to witness each other.
Yeah, well said. Yeah, and for me, it's so much like getting under the surface, like we talked about with the attachment styles, and like learning about your emotions and what's really going on. So sometimes people are looking for tools like, here, do this, do that, and those are helpful. And I do teach those a lot in my group, and even my private clients get access to some tools. But what happens in the session is not like me teaching you. That would be a waste of our hour. It's really getting under the surface of like, what's driving that response, that emotion. Where's that coming from? What are you believing when you're having those tears? Like your example of, we couldn't have these conversations because he was tapped out at the end of the day. And then your response, I know maybe what you said, which many people say, is you don't care. Right.
Right.
And so that's a taking it personally when it wasn't personal. Right. So we can start to get under that. I use this like peeling away the layers like you would on an onion, or the threads that you untangle carefully to unwind a big ball of thread, like, eek, okay, what's under there?
Yeah.
Yes. As we do that, we really start to understand ourselves, how we operate, what we need and want, what our pain is around, our old patterns that are driving the dysfunctional dynamics we're having with somebody. As we heal them, it gets better. We change. So the behavior changes from the inside out instead of, or in addition to, from the outside in. That makes sense.
It absolutely makes sense, because that's what I talk to my clients about, building your business from the inside out. Because if it isn't a reflection of who you are and your values and all of that, then it really is just a house on sand, right?
I love that. Yeah,
Yeah. Same for your relationship.
absolutely.
Yeah. So I know that you have something that you want to offer listeners.
I do. There's a couple things coming up. And one thing is ongoing, and I encourage folks to get it. It's my ultimate communication checklist. And so this is cool because it's not necessarily communication tools like, here's a tool, but it's a checklist of situations and behaviors. And if this happens, and if that happens, and you can check off, there's only 10, it takes about 2 minutes to go through it. You check off like, that's happening, that happening. And then within that, you will see like what the tool is, and there's a kind of a tip underneath, and this is what you should do. So you can start to see like where you might need to be focusing your attention, where you need support, and what's working, what's not, type of thing. So I highly recommend the checklist, the communication checklist. And then I also have, for those of you listening to this shortly after it drops, we have the Rock Your Relationship Communication Training. And everything I do, whether I'm teaching communication skills or some other skill, it's going to be infused with my understanding of developmental and complex trauma. So in that training, even though it's just about an hour a day for 4 days, you're going to get a lot of understanding about what we've been talking about today, different patterns that you might see yourself in, along with this a solid communication skill that you can practice and actually see change in your life within the day or 2 or 3 that you're learning these things. So people get a lot of transformation even in the training. finally feeling heard and understood, knowing how to make a request without someone blowing up at you or judging you. So lots can happen in that. So highly recommend both of those.
That can be absolutely life-changing. One little shift can make such a big difference. It's not the end all to be all. There's still more work to do, but gosh, that one little shift can just let you have the space to take a breath.
Exactly what I was thinking right before you said it. Yeah. And I felt myself, yeah, when we just get heard, we get understood, we get a like a rapport. It's like, we can breathe more and relax more. Yeah. So helpful.
Amazing. So I've got a link to your checklist and a link to your event in show notes. So anyone who's interested can easy click and go.
Great.
Robyn, I'm so happy we made this happen. Thank you so much for being here and sharing all your expertise. I truly love your energy, and I think that what you're doing is helping to heal the world one woman, one couple at a time.
Thank you so much, Pascal. I'm honored to be here and loved our conversation. It was fun and engaging, and I appreciate your share. And yeah, thanks so much for having me on the show.
After that conversation, I'm dubbing Robyn the queen of healthy, mindful relationship. How can you use what Robyn shared with us to help you have healthier, happier relationships? If you're ready to connect or reconnect with your inner power, gain clarity on your path, and feel confident about moving forward with purpose and intention, visit www.womenfindingclarity.com/appointments, or just click on the link in show notes and schedule a call with me. Whether you're navigating a life relationship, seeking greater fulfillment, or simply ready to put yourself first, this session will leave you with renewed energy and clear direction. It's time to discover or rediscover your power and step into the life you deserve. Let's start with a conversation. Remember, the universe is abundant and success is your birthright. Let's align, elevate, and thrive together, one conversation at a time. Good night. Thank you for being in our Women Finding Clarity community. If you're enjoying this podcast, please consider leaving us a 5-star rating and review on your favorite listening platform and share it with someone you know so they can find clarity from the conversation as well. Remember, the universe is abundant and success is your birthright. Let's align, elevate, and thrive together, one conversation at a time. See you next week.